What if you could weave a beautiful piece of textile art without a loom? And what if I told you you could use your probably infinite stack of 2.5-inch fabric strips to do it? Ooh, today we're going to create a woven masterpiece using fabric weaving, and then we're going to pillowfy it so that we have a piece of art that is also functional. And I cannot wait. It's textured, it's scrappy, and it was actually a lot easier than it looked. So let's get started. So for this quilted pillow project, or this time it's going to be a woven quilted pillow project, primarily woven. The fabric has already been chosen for the back. This is going to be what I use as the main inspiration. It's going to be the most visible on the back, and it's this beautiful retro looking bold colored floral retrospective by Anna Maria Horner. This is the Raindrops Poppy print. And so I pulled all of my solid colors. I'm only going to use solid colors on the woven top. I pulled all of my solid colors from this print. So let's take a look at those and figure out what is step one here. Okay, so this is my inspiration fabric for fabric weaving. And because it's a real statement piece, because it's so busy, I decided to use solids for my weaving strips. For my main strips, the most that I'm going to use, the ones that go up and down, I'll have to look up whether that is the warp or the weft. The ones that go up and down, I'm going to make this gray stone color. It's a little darker than this color, and that's okay. It's in the same range. And then I've got this canvas color because that is the same shade as those dots. And then I've got my bolder colors, and I used fewer of these colors. So it's, like I said, it's mostly going to be this gray color, and then it's just going to be pops of these other colors coming out because that is most in line with what we've got going on in the print. I'll make sure I got that crazy poppy orange. We've got I can't tell. I love that Art Gallery puts the selvages. Very Berry. They put the name of their solid on the selvages. So this is Very Berry. This is Bougainvillea. So those are great. So I cut mine into 2.5-inch strips. Let me tell you why. You can do this a couple of different ways. To weave these strips, to make them into something you can weave, you can fold them just like you're folding double fold bias tape, where you press both ends into the center, and then this is the part that appears on the front. But I felt like I would have to stitch that down in some way because I don't think I want to quilt this particularly a lot. So I decided to make fabric tubes. I am going to do it by just folding these in half and pressing them and then stitching and then turning them inside out. So I'll show you how I do that next, but I had to do a little bit of math backwards because I want each of my weaving strips to be 1 inch wide. So if I want them to be 1 inch wide, but this is folded, then they need to be at least 2 inches wide. And then if I'm going to do a 1/4 inch seam to stitch them all together, then that's a 1/4 inch on each side. So it needs to be an extra 1/2 inch. So that's where I came up with the 2.5-inch strip number. So that is also just really easy because if you have extra, everybody needs 2.5-inch strips. And if you have a lot of 2.5-inch strips, well, then you can pull them out and then fold them in half and then stitch them and turn them inside out. And you've got yourself some weaving cords already. Boom. So let me show you how I press these and then how I stitch them and then how we turn them into be the weaving cords that we want them to be. Okay, I've got my beautiful inspiration fabric back here. I thought you would be able to see my ironing board in this shot, but not quite, almost. I've got my 2.5-inch strips here. All I'm going to do, because these are solids, it does not matter which way I press them. But if you were using prints, you would want to put them right sides together, because we're going to turn what we sew inside out. You want your right sides facing in so that they will then eventually face out. But I'm just going to put any old two sides together, and I'm going to fold it in half lengthwise and press it really well, like I'm just making binding. Single fold binding, is that what it's called? That's what I usually make. And I also use 2.5-inch strips for my binding. So this is very familiar. Okay, and I just want it to have a really nice crease, because when I roll them around, turn them inside out, I want that crease to still be there. It's going to be helpful. So boom, I've pressed it. Now all I'm going to do is sew the opening shut. So sew my folded piece into a long fabric straw. Okay, the only way we're going to see what's going on here is if we're in ironing board mode. So hopefully you can see what's happening, which is that I have stitched each of these with a 1/4-inch seam away from the opening so that we've got some little fabric tubes, and we are going to turn them inside out. Now my favorite way to do this is, there's no favorite way to do this. It's a bit of a pain, but it gets such a nice result. So I'm just going to stick a little safety pin in one end and let that safety pin dive in. And then we're just going to shuffle our way up the tube. And about, a 1/3 of the way through, we're going to have to scrunch our fabric around and then keep going. Scrunch, 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 scrunch. I don't know if you make ruffles or if you make scrunchies, but this is not going to be an unfamiliar process for you if so. Scrunch, scrunch, scrunch. So, okay, once we've gotten it through, this one is really having a hard time scrunching. There we go. And we can shuffle the fabric down, and we've turned it inside out. And then once I've done that, I am going to press it so that my seam, can you see that in the ironing board view? Yes. So that my seam is just on one side. I don't want it right on the edge because I don't want it to show at all. So I'm going to scrunch and scrunch and scrunch my fabric as I'm pressing so that we have no creases or folds or puckers, so that we have the full inch of our weaving cord that we're making. And our seam is mostly straight, just mostly, and it is on one side because that is going to be the underside of our weaving so that it doesn't show up. Here we go, and we have a nice, smooth weaving cord right here. I'm going to press the other side too, just in the name of overdoing it. All right, and I'm going to do these last two, but let me first show you what I'm going to do with these. So we'll put our iron over here, and I'm going to set up my board. This is what I'm going to weave on. I've just used, this is what I usually use for pressing. It's just a board wrapped in canvas. And then I've got my wool pressing mat on top of it. And this is going to be really nice for this because not only can you press on it and it gives you really flat creases, but you can also pin into it because it is about 3/4 inch thick. And on top of here, we've got some non-woven fusible interfacing. And this is the bumpy side of the interfacing. So this is the part that when you press onto it, it's going to stick. So that's the fusible side. So we want the fusible side up. And this is just, what do I have here? Pellon P44F, fusible interfacing. And the reason I used this is because I have it. Because that is what was available. And now I am going to take all of my, these are all of my warp strands, my warp cords. So I've already made all of these in the same way that I just made that pink one. Is that a pink one? Did I make an orange one or a pink one? A pink one. And these are my gray stone background color cords. So all of my warp cords, the ones that go up and down, are going to be the same color. They're going to be just this plain stone gray color. And we're going to line them up right next to each other. And I'm just going to pin them at the top. So move my interfacing to the top, and I'm going to stick a pin in the top. These should all be about 21 inches long because they were half of width of fabric, and most fabric is about 42 inches width of fabric, I think. I'm going to put them right up next to each other so that they will make kind of a solid fabric back here. I don't want any gaps. And remember, I pressed my seams so that they're only visible on one side. That is not the side that I'm going to have up. They are not going to be visible on the top of this weaving. So we're just giving ourselves a nice little loom here on which to work. Okay, I did that all off camera. You're welcome. I've got 18 strips here, and I've pinned them at the top. Up here, can we see that? Let's put it down. And then I pinned them at the bottom. And I'm probably going to have to take these pins out and shuffle it up and do the last couple strands because my board is too short here. That's okay. And then I've laid these out in kind of the color order that I want them to go in. And then I've started weaving one, and I just decided to do a simple, let's see if I can move that down, over, under, over, under, over, under on this one because I've never done this before. So I decided to keep it simple, which is very unlike me, I know, but I just want to try it out. I want to see what over, under looks like. Obviously, you can do all kinds of patterns. I could have done 2 under, 1 over, 2 under, 1 over, or, uneven over-unders, whatever. But I decided to keep it simple. So on my next strand, I'm going to do under, over, under, over. So I'm going to do the opposite. So our squares can kind of alternate, and it's going to have like a basket weave effect. So I'm going to scoop this woven one up just like I would with like the big comb. I don't know the terminology. The big comb on a regular loom. Comb it so that it's all flush end of the loom. So on this is our pretend loom. We're going to move it up until it's flush with my pins at the top there. And now I've stuck with safety pins because they worked for turning these inside out. So they're going to work for weaving too. I just stuck a safety pin on here, and I'm going to do my opposite weave now and bring this cord under, over, the whole way down. And I'm scooching it along, but I think I can probably just wait till the end to do that. Because I don't have one of those big loom combs. What are those called? I am just going to scooch it up so that I have a nice, tight basket weave there. Take out my safety pin and put it on my turquoise. Okay, so all of my cords have been woven together in my over, under. And so I've already taken the pins out of the top part because I had to move this to fit on my board, my pressing board here, because it wasn't quite big enough. So I have already pressed this top part, which is why I used the fusible interfacing so that this doesn't fall apart when I try to move it. And now I'm going to gonna just scoot down some on your level here. And so now I'm gonna do the same thing on the rest of this. I'm just gonna press everything to the fusible. So it's gonna take like, I don't know, to the count of 20 each time I put the iron down. So I'm mostly gonna do it around the edges. And then I'm going to take up my pins, remove the whole thing, put it on a layer of fabric as my sort of backing, my quilt backing here. And then I'm going to stitch all around the edge to make sure that my whole thing is secured. All of my little weaving strands here are secured. And then it'll be ready. We'll see what it looks like at that point. If we're ready to turn it into a pillow. Beautiful. Ooh. All right. I know that this is going to cause a huge shock, but I love it. I love it so much. It, again, like the Prairie Points pillow, it's just a totally different weight than a regular quilted top. You know, you've got so many layers of fabric. Each weave is 4 layers of fabric. So it's not like a regular quilt top. And we didn't have to quilt this at all. We don't have to stitch these down because we already stitched them closed. So you don't have any raw seams showing on this, except the edges, which are going to get trimmed off. And everything is woven together. So you can see that I can stick a whole finger behind there. But because the ends are tacked down now, they're stitched down, everything is just going to lay flat and move back to where it was woven. So I love it. I love the way the texture looks with kind of the texture of the print that's going to be on the back. So now all that's left to do is I am going to trim the bottom edge, and then I'm going to attach one side of my invisible zipper, and then I'm going to attach the quilt back, and I'm going to fold it because I like a double layer quilt back. I am going to stitch that to the other side of the zipper, and this is an invisible zipper. And then I'm going to stitch all around the edge of the pillow. I'm going to use a serger for that, but you can just use a stitch if you don't mind some loose edges on the inside of your pillow. And then I'm going to stitch them right sides together and then flip them out, and I will have a zippered pillow with a woven top. And my only clever hack on putting in an invisible zipper, you won't believe this one weird trick, is that I like to unzip it and then I press the zipper. You're going to want to use kind of a medium heat or you're going to melt your zipper because these are not metal. Use a medium heat to press your zipper flat in the opposite direction that it wants to lie in when you receive it. When you receive these zippers, the teeth are kind of bent up, and towards the non-zipper side, the back, I guess, the wrong side of the zipper, the teeth are closer there. You're going to want to press them so that they're closer to the zipper side, the right side. Then when you're stitching, because you're stitching from the wrong side, you're going to be able to get just that much closer to your zipper teeth so that when you turn it around to the right side, most of your zipper tape is going to be invisible. And that's my only clever trick. So I'm going to do that and finish up this beauty, and let's see what it looks like already. Ta-da! Voila. Is it absolutely beautiful? Check. Is it huggable, squeezable? Yeah, I would say so. So mission accomplished. That really was actually a lot easier than what it looks like. It looks like that would be quite a pain to piece. It's got so much dimension. It's got so many great colors. I'm very impressed. I hope you will come join me again. Bye.